Okay. So, hello.
Hi.
Good afternoon. Today we are going to talk about cover letters in this virtual world.
Mhm.
Um, so I am going to try and share my screen. If I can do that, let me know if you can see it. And please bear with me with any technical glitches. You can raise your hand, ask a question, but let's see if I can share my screen. All right,
Mhm.
so now how come I cannot go forward? There we go. So I guess we have a couple new people, which is great. So it's really appropriate that we are having this presentation virtually and remotely because that's really where the world is, at least right now, and who knows what's going to happen in the next few months to come.
Mhm.
But this is a virtual presentation, so these are cover letters in a virtual at work environment, and I need to admit somebody. And please note that I am working remotely, so I have my hours 9 to 2 on Wednesdays and 9 to 4 on Thursdays. And please note that while I'm going to give you a lot of tips and tricks on cover letters, please make an appointment if you want to for something more personal to you. So during these economic shifts, and we are clearly in an economic trend, things are different, the world is not the same. The people who actually get jobs are the people who keep going. And it's almost as if don't think that anything has changed. Keep your name out there, keep applying, keep doing networking, keep researching. And those are the people who are going to get the jobs.
Mhm.
The traditional elements of a cover letter still apply in this virtual world, but there are some new things to think about that I will talk about. So the job search might get a little bit more competitive. It might even slow down or speed up in some respects. You might have to realize that employers don't know what's going to happen in the fall or what's to come. So they might delay a little bit. We're all working hard to get used to this new technology. So you might put things out there and you might not get responses. So just be aware of that. And you might have to think outside the box. So you might be a particular major. And Mariah, just because I can see you, what is your major?
Sociology.
Sociology. So you might have a specific career plan that you want to do with sociology, but in these times, everyone is doing things that they might not have thought. So you might have to think about job searches outside of that.
Mhm.
And always, it's a good time to brush up on your documents and your resume and your cover letters and your interviewing skills so that when opportunities are there, you can jump on them. So the first thing to know is that the purpose of a cover letter is to motivate an action. So you want the employer to either bring you in personally or digitally, somehow. That's what you want. And because of that, it's a marketing tool. You want the employer to pick you out of all the other employers who are going to be out there, all other applicants who are out there. You want the employer to pick you. It's your advertisement, it's your brand, it's your commercial. So it's very important to look at it that way.
Mhm.
It takes time. You don't just write a cover letter in a day, in an hour, and you probably will have more than one throughout your career as your circumstances changed. You might have one now that discusses things that might be different later on when you're looking for something different. Because it's your advertisement, always include it if you can. So if there's a way that says, include a resume and or cover letter, include the cover letter. If they don't allow for inclusion of a cover letter, if there's an email that is introducing your cover, if there's an email that's introducing your resume, please include essentially a cover letter in the email. Always follow the employer's instructions exactly. It's your first work project. If they are going to ask a particular question or they want some particular information from you, include that. And remember, you're explaining yourself and your skills and what you've done, but you want to think from the employer's perspective. Do you fit their needs? Do you fit their company culture? What do they need and want from you? And how can you accomplish their goals? How can you do what they want you to do? So something that a lot of people ask is, do people even read them? And it's maybe, maybe not. There are some people that say they only look at resumes. There are some people that say they look at the cover letter. I believe when I've been on job searches and I've been on search committees, I always read the cover letter first. So I would include it no matter what. And I am going to be talking about a lot of the best practices for cover letters. I will give you an example at the end of this of what a cover letter can look like. So I'm going to give you a lot of information. A cover letter is very, very personal to your specific job, to your specific skills. So please make an appointment to speak with me. Before you even start writing a cover letter, before you sit down to do it, you need to know your VIPs, your values, interests, personality, and skills. And I'm going to focus most through this on personality and skills. Personality is who you are, and your skills are really what you can do. And we call these things hard skills and soft skills. Hard skills are essentially the things that this employer wants you to be able to do. A lot of people think they're more tangible. They're things like Excel or a language, or if you're going into a particular profession, it's exactly what that profession wants you to do. And your personality oftentimes are those soft skills. It's what are your qualities? What are your professionalism qualities that make you someone that they want to work with? So you need to know those hard skills and your soft skills before you even start writing the letter. Because if you want to match yourself to the employer, then you need to know who you are. And then you also need to research the job. So what do they want from you? And where you find that is the job description and the company website and industry research and networking and all those things where you can learn what does a librarian do? What does a marketing agent do? So that you can then match your skills and personality and your professionalism attributes to what the job is. When you do this, it makes you stand out from all other candidates. And because a lot of people don't do this, they write a generic or general cover letter. And people come into the office and they'll say, I need a cover letter for all the jobs I'm applying to. And I just would like you to understand that a general cover letter is actually the hardest to write, and it's the least effective. When you actually know how you're matching things up, it's much easier to write that cover letter. So here are some best practices of cover letters, the nuts and bolts, let's say. But as I said, I have an awful lot of resources that have even more of these best practices. And again, how these best practices apply to you. So if anybody wants to email me, I can send them resources, and please, make up a meeting to meet with me. So the first thing is, no template ever. So I might have an example, but that doesn't mean that it's going to, you just fill in the blanks for you. You're unique. The job you're applying for is unique. A template won't have things that you want it to have. It will sometimes include things that you don't need. So we don't use a template. And actually an employer can see right through it. You don't want to have too many words or too much space. It is going to be one page for now, probably 3 or 4 paragraphs, but you don't want it to be too crowded, and yet you don't want it to simply be, a one little line. I'm applying for the job. Thank you very much. It's going to look exactly like the resume, essentially. The same font, the same print, the heading, essentially your contact information on the cover letter is going to be the same as the contact information on your resume. It's going to be white or cream paper if you are giving it in hand. If you're sending it, it will be a PDF document. That's really important because sometimes when you send things as a Word document, it changes. So you wouldn't want your beautifully crafted and looking cover letter to get all funky and change spacing because you didn't send it in a PDF document. Again, I said to follow the instructions exactly, very important. And proofread, proofread, proofread. Not just you, someone else. Bring it to other people. I'm not going to say that the perfect cover letter will get you a job, but I will say that a cover letter that has some mistakes in it probably will put you in a no pile. Just like a resume, they really don't look at things the first read very quickly, for a long time. It's done very quickly. So you want to make sure, and those mistakes will stand out, that you might not see them because you've been looking at your cover letter over and over, but they will stand out to someone reading it for the first time. And when I mean no mistakes of any kind, that means no spell checks, because the word two, and two won't have a mistake, but they have different meanings. That's one thing. Double words sometimes will come up in a mistake, in a spell check, but not always. And even things like content. So don't call, like some people before, when Framingham State was a college, when people would apply a while ago, they would say they went to Framingham State College. Well, now it's university. So just make sure the name of your major or your department is exactly what it's supposed to be. We've got some more sort of these best practices. You want to refer to your resume, but you don't want to repeat it. The cover letter is actually a place for you to enhance what's on your resume or to explain what's on your resume. So you don't want to have in your cover letter something totally random, although sometimes that might happen. But for the most part, you really want to be explaining what's on your resume. If you did something and you can only put one little bullet about it, you might want to give some more explanation about it in the cover letter. When we said already 1 page, 3 or 4 paragraphs, no fluff. Again, you're trying to make yourself stand out from everybody else. So while you do want to say that you're a good organizer, that you are a good communicator, it's better to have things that are a little more relatable to this particular company or employer. Why are your skills really needed in this situation? So we're trying not to be generic or vague. You don't want to say, I really want to work at your company because I want to learn more about a career in sociology. You really want to try, and I'm sorry to pick on you, Mariah, but no one else has their screen up. So you really want to try to be a little more relatable. Your tone should be professional. You don't want to be cocky or arrogant, but you want to be friendly, but you don't want to be too personal. You are not sending this letter as a chat to a girlfriend. It really is a professional tone. And although you don't want to sound hoity-toity, you do want to toot your own horn. This is a time for you to shine. This is the time for you to say, there's something that I'm very proud of, or there's an action that I took that really enhanced my skills in some way. This is where you talk about those things. Something that's hard when you're writing a letter that is about you is you don't want to start every sentence with I did this, I did that. Try to say, when I did this, something happened, or my skills were increased as a result of. Just try not to start with I. Again, I think this is the 3rd time I've mentioned proofreading. That isn't a typo for me. It's because I really want to say proofread, proofread, proofread. So I just have it a lot of times. Another thing is important is that make sure it represents you. So while you want it to be professional and in a good tone, don't use words that you wouldn't say in real life, because if they do bring you to an interview, you're going to have to speak about every word and every action that you've done in your cover letter. So if you then speak about something and it doesn't sound like you, they're going to know someone else did it for you, or it's a template, and you won't be comfortable in the interview. That's the most important. And the other thing is, don't lie, because it will hurt you in the long run. If you say that you're a 10 at Excel, you can do it, you've been doing it since you were a freshman, well, then they're not going to give you any training on Excel, or when you get to a job and you need to be able to do Excel, you're going to be upset and they won't be happy with you. So you don't want to overstate. That's one thing. The formats and the address and salutation. So I will give you, at the very end, I'll show you, if I can share that as well, a format that is, if you're giving it as a separate document to someone, so you're handing it to a connection that you have, or if you are attaching it to an email, that is one format. There's another format, as I referred to, in if it's part of an email. So essentially, the application is only giving you a place to put your resume, but you want to say, hey, I want to tell you something about me. So you want to write a cover letter in an email, and your resume is attached. The salutation, that's the address. That's dear so-and-so. We don't say to whom it may concern anymore. That'll show you're dated. That would show that you looked online to find a cover letter. You really want to do research. If you could even call the company, if you have someone who's in the company, if you can go on LinkedIn, if there's a way to figure out who you are actually sending it to, that's the best. But there are some other things: hiring manager, selection committee, human resources office, talent acquisition team, recruitment department. There's a lot of things that you can say other than to whom it may concern. Whoop. So here, I just want to give you I'll give you a true example, but this is what it might look like in a slow mail format. So the first three arrows are actually the same heading as your resume. And I often would put it in the same place as you put it on your resume. If it was on your resume in the center on the top, that's where I would put it on the cover letter. If it's to the right, I would put it on to the right. But it is your address and your contact information, then their name and address, the date, and the dear so-and-so. So that's the slow mail format. The email format essentially is just like an email, because it's to and from, and then the only thing that you need on your cover letter are the date and the dear. But I will show you how that looks later on. So then we have the first paragraph, and the first paragraph is really why them. Why do you want to work for this company and at this particular position in the first place? Okay, so where you found the job, you can always include a connection if you had one, if it's on Handshake, if it's through Indeed, if it's through a professor, if it is through Handshake. So where you found the job, and then why you want to work for this company. So here you're going back to that research that I talked about, and you're even going back to your values and interests. You might want to work for this particular company because their clients are of a particular section of a community, or this company is a green company, or this company is a small company, or this company is a huge company, or this company, the position requires you to work for different departments. So you really want to refer back and say why you want to work for this company. Why them? And then the second and maybe third paragraphs are why you? Why are they picking you out of all the other people? So have you studied something in your classes that gives you an understanding that will allow you to have an awareness of what you're going to be doing at this position? Were there any class projects where you either gained some of those hard skills? Like if it's a lab, have you had a lab in a class where you have learned a skill that they want you to do? Or if you are going into psychology, did you ever have a class where you had to role model? That's something where you've learned something that the employer wants you to do. Or in a class project, have you gained some of those soft skills? Have you learned leadership skills and listening skills and communication skills? What have you done in a work experience? Think about everything. Your unpaid, your paid, your leadership experience in a club or an organization. What have you done where you can tell them, I know this, and I am going to be able to help do what you want me to do? I hope, does everyone understand that? Is that clear? How can you help the employer meet his or her needs? That's really what a cover letter is. And then the last paragraph is thanking you for their time, because they are taking their time out of their busy day to consider you and restate your interest to work for the company and try to make that connection happen. You'd be interested in meeting for an interview. So here's something that's new though in cover letters. We are all, right now, we are having this presentation remotely. Being able to work remotely is a skill that you want to let employers know that you have. So there's actual platforms like Zoom, like MS Teams. There are so many that I'm learning now. Each company might have its own sort of group platform, but if you can say you've learned Zoom quickly and easily, then you'll be able to learn their platform. So you might not know their platform, but you'll be able to learn it. But here are things that you might not have thought about that an employer is going to want right now. You have to deal with technical malfunctions, and I'm actually a little worried I might have one in a moment, and you'll see how I think on the spot if I'm going to be able to make it work. Dressing and acting professionally outside of the office. I know that I've seen some students where they've had to do a presentation virtually, so they have actually gotten dressed to do that presentation even though they're in their bedroom. You have to make a schedule and meet deadlines even though there are distractions. There are dogs in the way, there are little siblings, there's sirens outside the door, but you've got to be able to meet deadlines. Oh, there's television shows. There's all sorts of things now that we're working at home. And you've got to be able to structure your day and be productive in spite of this. If you're going to work remotely, employers are going to want that. Speaking in a group is very different on screen versus in person. Right now, I only see one face and I see two other squares, and I'm speaking to a group. And so really knowing how to adapt to social cues or to keep people engaged is very difficult, or different. I wouldn't say difficult. It's a skill that you are really learning how to do, and I want you to be proud of that. And then there are some of these soft skills. It's like a new professionalism that employers want now that they might have wanted it before, but now it's so much more crucial. So the fact that you can turn around a challenging situation. This is one of the most challenging times that we all have faced, and that you can turn it into a positive or remain positive in spite of it. You need to think out of the box, not just doing the same old things. And that's where I said at the beginning, you might be doing a different type of job than you thought. You might be applying to companies that you never thought you would. Because, for example, maybe you're a marketer, and you don't know anything about the pharmaceutical industry or drugs, and you think, or new drugs that are coming out, and you think that that's all for scientific people. Well, really the marketing jobs might be in the pharmaceutical companies. So you've got to think out of the box. Always be willing to pitch in and do whatever in any capacity. You see out there that waiters and waitresses are now being delivery people. That is also in your world too. Doing things that you might never thought you would have done and doing them with a smile. and thinking about the greater good of a team and not just your individual status. So please, that's really the end of what my presentation on cover letters is, and I really would like you to email me or make an appointment with me through Starfish. But what I'd like to do, if I can, I am going to try and share a cover letter. Let's see if this happens. Let me try. No, where is it? Okay, I'm going to try and share again. Can people see this? Yes? Terrific. So here is where I give you, and I can send this to anybody who wants this. This is sort of that, you know, the cover letter format with the salutation and why they, why they should hire you, why them, why you. And then here's the slow mail format if you'd like to see one. This is where I used a public relations student. But again, if you look at the heading, the address is probably the same that they had on their resume. And then they have the address of the company and of the person who they're sending it to, the date and the year. And here I have what I'm leaving it up here now. I don't know if we have the time to read it all, but as you can see, it's why they want to work for this company in the first place. I put down, through my independent project, which involved blank, I learned blank. I also learned how to manage time. That's how that goes. And then I believe I said, I learned the importance of collaborating, things like that. So, and then the email format is actually, you see, it's just the to, from, and the dear Miss So-and-so. So that, if everybody wouldn't mind right now, I want to get on. Whoops. How do I now get back? Oh, stop share. Would anybody be willing to let me know if they have any questions?
I don't necessarily have a question, but for like a review on cover letters or resume, like for somebody to look it over before I submit it.
Yep.
I go through Starfish for that.
Yes. Yep. Okay. It would be great if you had something to work with and then we could review it. I would love to create a Zoom meeting where I could see you face to face. That would be the best. But yes, and there's other career counselors. We're here for you. Definitely have that done.